Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry about that delay. I realized that the mic was on mute. Anyway, welcome to the Outer Realm Wednesday night segment. Happy to have you all here. We are broadcasting live from the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been with us since day one. So thank you, Folgers. Also, big thank you to Dr. Snick, I guess, aka the Sonic Surgeon, Justin Snicker, for the contribution of his voice and music for our intro and our outro. His music can be found anywhere that good music can be found. So thank you again, Dr. Snick. Tonight we welcome back Wes Roberts to the show, and it's going to be a bit of a mix tonight. We're going to be discussing mindful magic, and I was quite intrigued. So looking forward to seeing what he's got to say about all of that. And he said he's also going to add on his ET experiences and tell us about a couple of really amazing workshops that he has coming up. So real curious about that as well. So as you can see this evening, if you want to communicate here on chat with myself and the guests, because as you can see, Amelia is not with us again tonight, but she also is in chat, so she'll be bouncing around tonight. But we are on UFO Paranormal Radio on YouTube. We are on Michelle DeRoche, Outer Realm Radio, Outer Realm with myself and Amelia on Facebook, UFO Paranormal United Public Radio, Facebook, Joe Montaldo, UFO Undercover, Facebook, Canada's Most Haunted, Michelle DeRoche, Facebook, News on the Flip Side, Facebook, and of course, if you go to my personal page on Twitter, if you guys are over there, only problem is I cannot see your comments over there, but you can at least enjoy the show. So again, sorry, but do you want to be seen? I think the Facebook and the YouTube is probably the best way for you guys to tune in at that point. So a little bit about Wes, if you guys do not recall from his last segment here. He's a 30-plus-year-old contract college professor who teaches students computer applications, transcription, office procedures, business communication. He's had hints of alien visitations dating back to his teens through oft-time frustrating nighttime experiences due to consciously recalled experiences in the 1980s. He became convinced his experience could not be explained away by conventional notions such as imagination, visions, hallucinations, dreams, and so on. And he basically did go for hypnosis, if I'm not mistaken, and he is gotten a lot of these memories back and still at it. And he requested that we actually do a show on conscious mindful magic. I have not heard of it put this way, but I am really looking forward to seeing what it's all about. So I see the chat is starting to fill up. Hello, Bubbly's in the house. And we've got Howie Odell. Hello, hello. We've got Tamara. Hello, Zachman. Hello. So definitely, definitely going to be a good show. And of course, when the gang's all here, it's just all that much more fun and chat as well. I know. This is what Bubbles got to say about it. There we go. Woo! There we go. Oh my gosh. So I know, I miss you too. So you just have to get better and then get back to doing life. Hello, Allison Wrighton from Ontario, Canada. Fellow Ontarian. There we go. My gosh. Howie shared you to my fan group site. Thank you. We really appreciate that. Love the support. Thank you. Let me see, trying to get everybody in here. Hitman is in the house. Love it. Zach Man, good evening. Hello, Zach. Always nice to see you. Amelia, Justin Snicker. Yes, yes, our award winning composer of Halloween sci fi electronic music. And he is responsible for our intro and our outro. And sometimes we don't always have time to play the outro because we cut it real close, but we do try because it's pretty spectacular. Hello, Chris. How are you? Zach's birthday yesterday. Ooh, how come I didn't know that? Bubbles. See, Bubbles not around. I just don't know what's going on. So big happy birthday going out to our friend right here, Zach Man. Hello, hello. And definitely a big happy birthday. And there we go. Okay, so now we are waiting on Wes to join us, and we can go from there. So, hoping Bubbles is better. Right now, just kind of going down to the chat room as it's filling up. She's getting there, I think. She's a little bit back to her old self. Happy birthday to our third host from Bubbles. There we go. Feels good being 33. Hello from Scotland. Hello, hello, Ron. And happy birthday, West to Zachman. Thank you, thank you. There we go, guys. Thank you very much. So, yeah, we're filling up. Hello, Melissa. Okay. Whew, here we are. Hi, Wes. How are you?
Hello. Very good. Thank you. Very good.
Good, good. My gosh, we're just going down the chat room, starting to fill up, as you could probably see it to your right. So I'll highlight things as we go along for questions and such. So, how are you? How have you been since
I've
our
been
last show?
I've been very well. Busy creating at least the outlines for a couple of workshops, which we'll talk about later if we get a chance.
Yeah, well, we all have a chance, of course.
And also ramping up because school is back, and I chose to go back in the classroom. Um,
Oh,
yeah, we had options. So I'm
right.
teaching what's called hybrid, which means that there's an in-class portion and there's an asymmetric portion where they do their own thing. But I wanted to go back after 2 years, so I'm back.
I guess, yeah. Yeah, get a little bit of normalcy back, get back into the swing of things,
Oh
right?
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and nice to be back. The kids, nice. Are they happy to be back? I say kids. I mean, we're college level, but they're still kids. We're our age.
That's what I call them too. Interestingly enough, and I have about 10,000 children over the
Ah,
years.
it's just a little amount, you know.
Well, it took a while.
I love it though. I love it. So last time you were here, we talked about your ET experiences, which we
Hmm.
can touch on a little bit more as we go on, because
Sure.
I want to make sure I'm really intrigued by this, the mindful magic. And it's funny because we haven't done tons of magic stuff on the outer realm, and in probably in the last 2 months we've had two other guests come on and talk about it, but all different types of magic. So when you
Hmm.
said, oh yeah, you know what, this would be great to do, and I'm just like, see, there's something else that I've never heard of, and it's like really intrigued me. So where would you like to start? I mean, I guess probably a good place before, I mean, I'll answer my own question, but is what is mindful magic?
So yeah, it's a great question. What I would say, Michelle, is that everyone does magic. They've always been doing magic. The
Mm,
difference between the magic most of us do and maybe the stuff I do and others do is that I put my mind behind it. I put my intent behind it. I formalize it, is the
right.
way I might put it. Um,
Okay.
that could be ceremonialize it, ritualize it, but I chuck in 5 or 6 or 7 key ingredients, which I'm certainly willing to get to tonight,
Yeah.
and when I chuck those in place, if everything's more or less in balance, I can make my wishes come true. And
Right.
so I think we all do that. I mean, I'm not sure about yourself if you wanted to be on the haunted shows, if you wanted to be here, where you wanted to be, what you wanted to do. Um,
Right.
I had a wish in the 1980s or so that I would get involved in communications of some kind,
Right.
and I didn't know
Right.
what that meant. But I really threw myself behind it, and all
Mhm.
the ingredients were in place to make it so.
Hmm.
essentially. But if you allow me to, and please interrupt me if you need to,
I always say the stage is yours.
no.
Yeah, no, really. It's okay. I mean, I guess the first comment to what you're saying is manifesting.
Yeah, manifesting your wish or your will.
Okay.
I would totally agree with that. Magic's the manifestation of what you can see, what
Right.
perhaps you can see in your future. And that could
Ooh.
be an hour from now. So
Right. Nothing too
um,
exciting then. So,
I was for 15 years or more, I was really stressed. And this is how I think I can introduce it to folks. I was really stressed because I was in debt. So I don't mind saying that. I was in a crazy debt for a normal human being
mhm.
with three different banks, and
Wow.
got to a point where I was just paying interest. So 10
Hmm.
years or so of paying interest, nothing on principal.
Right.
And no matter what I did, no matter how I thought I'm obligated,
Hmm.
I got myself in debt. I'm obligated to pay this all off. It's my responsibility. I don't know why I felt like a good citizen, you know, but I
Right.
did. And so I made a wish about 3 years ago that somehow, some way, I would be debt free. And
Right.
I had to see that as a real possibility, because up until then I'd been saying I cannot.
Mm.
Basic principle of magic: cannot means you will not.
Wow.
If you want
Wow.
to do the simple math there, what you wish comes true. So I until I said, okay, I think I can do it,
Hmm.
and my partner influenced me by something she said. She said, "You don't respect money," and
Wow.
I'd never heard that before. The banks might have said something different, and I never thought to myself, why should I? I had a real cavalier attitude about it.
Right.
So I thought, I can do this. And I put my mind behind it, my intent behind it, my will behind it. And eventually, instead of going bankrupt, did something different, which here in Canada is called a consumer proposal.
Hmm.
And I took this on, and they said, well, okay, we'll talk to your banks. And two of the banks forgave my debt, and the other one didn't. So
Hmm.
they set out a 5-year plan.
Hmm.
Anyway, in February of this year, I had completed this plan 2.5 years ahead of time, and I became debt free.
Wow. Congratulations. That is a big one. And
Oh,
that is very
thanks.
stressful. And stress kills.
Yeah, I was sick over it, at times. And so this was a clear act of magic, working with what's possible.
Right.
And this is something else I'd have to say to all your viewers, is that it's got to be feasible.
Right.
It's got to be doable. We need to work with what some magicians call the natural order,
Hmm.
just nature. And so, working with the natural order, was it something I could do? Well, yeah, absolutely. I can't fly if I jump off the roof, but I could become debt free.
Hmm.
And, the money didn't come from heaven or hell. It wasn't a windfall.
Right.
It was just a heck of a lot of work
Hmm.
with me and my focused will. So,
Right.
I think that's a decent example of what wish magic can be.
So, basically along these lines, get rid of negative thoughts and words. Get the words can't, won't, don't out of your vocabulary, where you can and you will and you shall, and changing the mindset, I guess. Positive vibes.
Positive vibes. I mean, I'm sure you and a lot of your viewers know the basic tenets or more of the law of attraction.
Yes.
And this is something
Yes.
I stir and repeat. I add it into my magic because the tenets are wonderful. So
Hmm.
instead of picturing myself debt free, because
Hmm.
debt was still in there, I pictured
Right.
myself with a bank account.
Okay, there you go. There you go. Gratitude
Hmm.
for what you have, Amelia
Hmm.
says, and opportunity presenting itself.
Yes.
Also, Allison says we will only be free from debt when we stop destroying this beautiful planet. I do agree. We have to do that. We have to change the the focus, I think, of we're so conditioned to being a certain way that we tend to forget that there are other ways to do things. I mean, especially if the way we're conditioned doesn't work and hasn't been working, right? So, yeah, and everybody share resources. Yeah, well, that's how they used to do things. A community would do just that. So,
Mhm.
okay, so you get to this point then. So please continue. I just want to try to get into everything
Oh,
as we go along.
absolutely. And if
Yeah.
you see me looking off to the side, there's so much about magic, about its history, about different varieties of magic. I have some notes beside me, so with apologies, I've got some notes.
It's okay. If I just put these up, it's just to, for the people who are viewing, they can see and other people can comment and such. So don't worry about it. If it's something that the direction, I will get you the question so you can keep going.
Okay,
So
thank you very much.
yeah, no problem.
So, mindful wish magic, I've given it a little bit of a definition: create or assist change in
Right.
accordance with one's needs.
Hmm.
And so, change is a big deal, and we sometimes think we're in a rut and we cannot change or we cannot change others. And
Hmm.
those things are partly true. You can't really change others; they need to change themselves.
Right.
But for me, I drew from Egyptian magical practices, traditional magic, which I would call witchcraft or right hand path magic,
Right.
black magic, which is what we call left hand path magic,
Hmm.
um, part of what we can do in the quantum worlds in terms of space time.
Right.
Partly vampiric magic. So what I do is a deliberate effort to communicate, to connect, and to have information with other sentient beings, to become more awake,
Oh,
aware,
okay.
self-aware.
That's interesting.
And
Right.
so all this, I do claim I can do a lot on my own, and
Hmm.
that's one of the goals of magic, as I know it. Do it,
Hmm. Right.
take ownership, do it.
Right.
But I work with pantheons of other beings, not asking them to do it for me,
Right.
asking them for information or assistance or technique so I can do it.
Right. So the key is doing it yourself. I think where some people might go wrong is they go in and they want these beings to almost do their bidding, and then they get themselves into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's a lot of traditional magic.
Yeah.
There, I take exception to it. I'm not trying to
Right.
polarize this show or polarize the whole subject of magic. It's a
Right.
workable kind of magic. But I
Hmm.
always thought you're going to call upon various entities, perhaps demons, and order them around.
Good luck.
I always
Seriously,
thought that was preposterous,
it doesn't quite
and
work that way. No.
yeah, you
No.
pour some salt on the floor and you're in a circle and they can't cross that line. I just, sorry, I don't buy it. And this is no offense to traditional
Yes.
witchcraft
Yes.
practitioners,
Right.
Wiccans, magicians, etc. No offense to them, because I
Hmm.
went through a time when I thought that's how you do it.
Right. Right. Well, I think because media really has a lot to do with that as well. Salt itself is, I think, if you're getting into indigenous cultures, they do believe that you can use that along with anything from the earth. People
Hmm.
keep forgetting salt really does come from the earth, but
Yeah.
you can use different elements. You can
Hmm.
work with different minerals. You can,
Hmm.
plants and things of that nature. So I completely agree with that. And yeah, and exactly, Amelia, purifying, it has its
Hmm. Yes.
place. But I think it's like I say, when you're clearing, for example, I'll use clearing because, people tend to relate salt and negative energy with
Hmm.
clearings. When you're doing a clearing, and this is going to come right back to what you're saying, Wes, it's not so much about what you're using, maybe what you're doing, the words that you are, orating. It's about the intention of the act of the clearing itself, the power behind the words that you were using. Say what you mean what you say, follow through. It's really
Hmm.
pretty basic. but it all stems from right here,
Yes.
intention,
Yes. And
right?
I'm with you on that, on using
Exactly.
some of the natural elements, using salt. Yeah, not about anti-elements. I use incense. I use a grail sometimes,
Yes.
and I use other implements, and certainly alchemists
Yes.
use three base ingredients. So,
Right.
but the truth is, actually, they're not
Yes.
trying to turn things into gold. They're changing themselves.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Hmm. Hmm.
Exactly. So I think, yeah, I mean, chat's definitely getting it, but for you people out there who aren't partaking or aren't in chat, you should be in chat. So, but I give kudos to people who really want to do proper research, because I've always believed, Lisa says, I've always been interested in magic and deities and have books on witchcraft, Wicca, dragon magic, reading for
Hmm.
years. It just goes to show you that there's so many different types of that. So what do you say to, like, let's say before you start doing a ritual or putting out your intentions, for example, protect your energy and then you are surrounded in light. What do you do, for example, to ground yourself or prepare yourself to be dealing with other energies?
So that could branch off and take up the rest of the night, which would be a lot of fun. But it depends on the nature of the magic, the nature of the spell,
Right.
the nature of what we call a working with a
Right.
capital W. So pretty much, I do an assessment.
Right.
I do an assessment of what the outcomes are.
Right.
So I want to interject by saying this is what I would call operative magic,
Okay.
different from ceremonial magic.
Mm-hmm.
So in operative magic, you're going to have an outcome. You're working towards an outcome. You're doing a magical operation.
Mm-hmm.
So I assemble what I think I'll need for this, and
Right.
and that could be anything from, well, typically I'm going to have a grail.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have a bell. I'm going to have a light source like a candle, and
Mm-hmm.
and so these things are common in all kinds of witchcraft. Um, I'm probably going to have a script of some kind. I'm going to probably do an invocation of some kind
Mm-hmm.
or an evocation of some kind,
Okay.
to connect
Right. So
and
maybe
to,
for anybody who is completely green at this, what is an
yeah.
invocation?
When you're doing an invocation, you are invoking something, either within yourself or perhaps external to yourself. That would be an evocation, but an invocation is probably you're invoking or provoking something within you
Mm-hmm.
to rise,
Right.
and become one with your purpose, and
Right.
to connect with the magical objects, which we call accoutrements.
Okay.
So our little magical objects, like a grail or a candle,
Mm-hmm.
um, like the incense, for instance, even music, like a robe, if you care to wear one, or a mirror,
Mm-hmm.
or something that you can scry into,
Right.
if
Right.
you're doing that kind of working. So I assemble what I think is needed for this, trying to match it to the purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll write a script. And then I'll do this assessment that includes, at least, besides intention, which you already mentioned, which is
Mm-hmm.
a key one,
Right.
5 different ingredients. Need is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Need perhaps versus want.
Right.
Desire. Is it really there? Or is this pretend BS? Am I not really serious about it? Do I really have the desire?
Right.
Do I have the will? Not like willpower, but is this in part of my destiny?
Mm-hmm.
Is the timing appropriate?
Right.
And that could be internal or external.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, is there some kind of balance to what I think I'm going to be doing? Is it
Mm-hmm.
feasible? So balance means that I'm not likely going to upset the balance of the universe or my immediate world or
Mm-hmm.
even people I know.
Right.
So I have to determine if all these things are there. So need, desire, will, timing,
Mm-hmm.
balance, and is it feasible?
Right.
And then I
Right.
do this, I examine each of these words because they're all to me, they're all pretty important. They're all pretty vital to make sure they're in place.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. Absolutely. Question from Wayne. What is a grail?
So a grail is a cup.
A
Uh,
vessel of
yeah,
sorts?
basically a
Oh,
cup.
okay.
Think of King Arthur and all that stuff,
Yeah.
or think of any kind of grail you want. So I have a
Yeah.
specific grail I use for magic,
Right.
um, and you generally put something in it. You don't have to. You can imagine something to be in it, but you
Mm-hmm.
put something in the grail. So typically, I want something sweet or something bitter or
Mm-hmm.
something that packs a punch to remind me that when I consume
Mm-hmm.
this, consume the working, so to speak, consume my will, I'm
Right.
going to notice it.
Right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's a grail, is a
That's the
container
grail.
of some
Okay.
kind. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Please. Okay. All right then. Allison, please welcome Laura Ray from Ontario. Welcome, welcome, Laura. All right.
Hello, Laura.
There we go. Um, no, I agree. So now you've got everything in place. What's next? I guess when you're looking at intention, are you, I mean, I could see people everywhere, trying to get the lotto numbers or getting, you
Yeah.
know, um, working on that job or wanting, I want this house. Or does it work the same if you want something physical for yourself, or is it really about putting something out for the good of everyone that works the best?
I think both the cases are true, Michelle. You can just want something for yourself. I hope it's more than a want,
Yeah,
because it's difficult. If it's
right.
not, if it's just a want, it's difficult, and I can talk about that later if you want. But
Absolutely.
um,
Yeah.
you can also do things to help people. I mean, some people look at magicians,
Hmm.
for instance, black magic, and they say black magic is awful and terrible, and you kill people and suck blood and do all this stuff. It's like, no.
It's stereotypical, thanks
Oh
to
gosh.
yeah, media and such, right? Hey, Michael. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think first, I think you have to get away from the stigmas of everything to be able to
Hmm.
do this with a clear mind. It sounds to me like the focus has to be just right. The words that you use have to be just right. And I notice all the words that you use don't have a negative intention at all.
Not,
It's not like
yeah.
can't, won't, it's positive, can and will.
Generally, I think that's true. I mean, I have done magical ceremonies or spells to help people, to
Mm-hmm.
heal people,
Mm-hmm.
to connect with another person's mind,
Mm-hmm.
to meet somebody in the dreamscape,
Right.
to meet somebody in an out of the body experience. That's really hard. I'm not good at this. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I've done them to help others
Mm-hmm.
who are in dire straits or some other reason. And I should feel that's nothing off me. I'm not
Right.
losing anything to help someone else.
No, exactly. If
A lot of
anything,
people
I
are real
think it would give
selfish.
you karmic brownie points. If anything, right? That's a good thing if you're putting it out there and being more of a service to others. That
Well,
has
I
to
like
stand
to
for
think
something.
I'm paying it forward. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't fall into this stuff. I started to become aware when I was 15 years old of this,
Right. Right.
and just follow various tracks. But one of the questions or things you mentioned, I'd like to return to because it's kind of important. It's like, have you made a decided, obvious, formal effort to say, I can do these things, that I'm allowed to do these things?
Right.
Have you crossed the threshold? Have you crossed the line in the sand and said, I can and I will? It's an
Right.
important early step, I think.
I think so. I think so. I think it also leads to, like, for me, I do heavily believe in mindset and intention. I think it falls into everyday life. You try to do something, if the intention isn't there, then it's just not going to happen. And I think maybe that's where you have people who when they say you can manifest your
Hmm.
own future, you can manifest all of these things that you want, or manifest something for someone else, and people go, okay, I was going to manifest this, but they really don't get it. It's like, it's easy to just say it and picture it, but I really don't think they get how much power you have to have behind that intention.
you really have to be focused. And this brings us to need again, need and want.
Yes.
So I want all sorts of stuff, you know.
Sure, don't we all?
Yeah, I want to win the lottery, but you know what? I don't need to win the lottery.
Right.
And this might
Right.
be one of the balancing factors. Also,
Mm,
if the lottery is what it purports to be, a
right.
machine spewing out random numbers,
Hmm.
then you're going to have to work like a dog. You might kill yourself trying to affect the machine. But
Right.
affecting other minds, that's a
Right.
heck of a lot doable, more doable.
Right. Right.
Working with
And that
sentient beings.
makes absolute sense, because I have heard of people who teach how to do, manifestations, and teach you how to manifest what you want in your life. And I
Hmm.
mean, there have been talks of people like, oh yeah, I've had, friends or people win the lottery multiple times. How do you crack the code? That's what I want to know. How do you crack that dang computer? So, because it isn't just like, not like even if it's like, I'm sorry, even if it's back in the day and you're just got this little round cage with the bingo balls in it, it's still a luck of the draw. Is it, what exactly are you manipulating? It's not the person turning the wheel that can focus on what's coming up. Right? I mean, she's not going to say, "Oh, B12 is coming up." It's still, So this is
Hmm.
where I think people focus so much on that, and they don't realize like it's more complicated than that.
And it's also not a case of force, at least
Right.
not at all times. Like there was a Russian woman, I'm sorry I don't have the details in my brain, but
That's okay.
she was able to do PK, psychokinesis. So she was able to affect material objects with her mind.
Mm,
And there's film that you can look on YouTube and you'll find it. And there's film on this Russian woman. It took her so much effort to move a few matches.
mm,
Um, at one point, she had a heart attack.
mm-hmm. Right.
So
Right.
I'm thinking, is she going about something the wrong way? Like, do you really want to do that? Or do you want to maybe influence someone's mind, or have your mind influenced, or influence outcomes that involve several people? Because
Mm-hmm.
almost everything involves at least one other person.
Mm-hmm.
And then is it right for that person if you're smug enough to say, I can affect another person's mind? Is what you're doing right for that person as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, no, that's a good one. I think that that's something people have to work on almost immediately before doing anything else. Is everything that's up here the focus?
And I don't want to say, Michelle, there's not bad stuff that happens. Like, ask yourself,
Mhm,
were I a magician, a witch, a warlock, whatever you want to call yourself,
mhm,
and somebody went out of their way to hurt my children,
mm,
or my spouse, or my sister or brother,
mhm.
would you simply leave it up to the justice system? And I'm not advocating
Okay,
going
just remember
aside from the
there's like
justice.
probably 2.5 million people listening right now. Don't
Well,
incriminate yourself.
no,
Just- I'm kidding. Go ahead.
yeah, and I'm half kidding.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
So I'm
Mm,
not advocating we
yeah.
go and seek revenge or justice. But
No.
what if
Right. Right.
but what if some of the folks out there, yes, maybe there's something going through the criminal courts and they wish the person would flake off and die?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how much has that happened? I mean, let's be honest. Probably everybody who's been wronged or had one of their loved ones wrong. And they might be saying, yeah, safe space, I got it.
Amelia.
Um,
Yeah. Right.
so I'm
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, if something happened to one of my sisters at the behest of some freak, I might be real mad. If I'm a magician, maybe that's broadcast,
Hmm.
and that's just my thoughts. I'm wishing a person bad things.
That's strong intention. I've been guilty
Yes.
of that myself, not necessarily wishing somebody bad, but
Hmm.
wishing somebody, it is just off the cuff going, oh, just like, hope you just like,
Just like that.
fall down the stairs and, like just twist your ankles like stupid,
Yeah,
just,
it's like
I
that.
hope you just feel that one, and next thing you know, it just happens and you're like, I don't know, like you don't even think about it. So it is intention.
And it's not automatic pilot. For that moment, it might be rage. Um,
Right.
you can send something out and you can't stop it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thought,
Right.
and your thoughts are broadcast.
Right.
And that's what I
Right.
mean.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Like I said, I've just, done things and I come up and then sometimes it's like 3 months later, and it's
Hmm.
like this person will say something like, oh, damn. Sorry about that. And you don't really think about, yeah, I know, Michael. I
I
know.
got it. I hear you.
Yeah, it's true. When it says, but thoughts are very powerful. Everything we have in the world was at one time a thought.
Agreed. And that's exactly
Yeah.
what I'm getting at. I'm not, again, advocating going out and attacking somebody, although it would bring a
Right.
lot of pleasure.
Yeah.
And I'm not wishing
Yes.
them, the most horrific death or anything like that. I'm just thinking, wow, I can't believe that person went out of their way to hurt whomever.
Mm, right.
And your thoughts are out there. It's just who will pick them up.
Right. Right. No,
Hmm.
no, that's true. That's true. So, okay. Well, now I'm a student. I'm coming and I want to know more about, okay, we're setting the stage. We've got the altar ready. We've got everything
Hmm.
ready to go.
Hmm.
We've set, your incantations, your intentions, everything's good to go. So where do we go from here? Walk me through.
So if I was actually doing a ceremony, for instance, my partner put together a little ceremony for healing.
Right.
And I can actually relate some of the text to you if you want. And I have all sorts of things I do magic for.
Right.
It could be a job, it could be health. Generally, it's a lot of what I've done recently is about healing, self healing,
Right.
and my own health, for instance. So I'm working on me. So anyway, if we had everything together, and
Mm-hmm.
assuming that we've covered some of the basics in the past before we hit the chamber,
Mm-hmm.
um, I would probably do something like have you involved in assembling all the things that go on the altar.
Mm-hmm.
And so it could be something meaningful for you. You might choose to do one of the little things that we do, or
Right.
you could be assigned to do one of the little things that we do. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, simple things. You start the music at a certain point if you're using music. At a certain point, you're going to light a candle. At a certain point, you're probably going to put some incense on. At a
Right.
certain point, you're going to invoke whom or whatever.
Right.
If I wanted to make sure my books did better, and I should have done this because they haven't, but if I wanted to make sure my books did better, I could have
Right.
invoked Thoth. I could have invoked
Right.
Thoth, and said, help me because Thoth is involved in writing, for instance. Or if I want to run better, which I'm constantly trying to work on myself, I could invoke Mercury.
Right.
So, I mean, there's all sorts of things you can do. So we're sitting or standing at a table, and then what I generally do, and I don't know about other people's practices, is I ring a bell or a gong. Generally, it's a bell 9 times because nine's a real magical number. And what that is doing is called breaking the atmosphere.
Mm.
It's signaling a change.
Okay.
It's saying that this is, we sometimes use the term, it's shattering the atmosphere.
Right.
And so you shatter the atmosphere to formally say, this has begun.
Right.
And you'd be surprised how dramatic an effect that can have. Now, you
Yeah,
don't
because it
have to
seems
have it
very
all.
simplistic,
It
really.
is.
So it just shows you that it doesn't have to be complicated.
No,
Wow.
it's just
Wow.
you could bang on the altar with your fist
Hmm.
9 times, or it doesn't have to be 9 times. You could have a glass, not your grail, but a
Hmm.
glass that you hit
Right.
to make an interesting tone, and that's like it's begun.
Merely wants a gong. There we go.
Oh yeah, you could
So
tackle it
we go.
totally.
So atmosphere or frequency.
I would agree
She's,
with that, with what
yeah.
Amelia said. Yeah, it
Yeah.
changes the atmosphere or frequency. It changes you.
Right.
We try and keep in mind that we're the operator,
Right.
and
The
so
conduit, really.
yeah, we're the
Right.
conduit operator. We're operating on ourselves or through ourselves.
Right. Right.
Do you want? I know these questions are coming up. Just tell me if you want me to.
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of this is comments. Here is a question. Do you differentiate between invoking and evoking? Thank you, Trish.
I do. I think of an invocation as something within,
Right.
and an evocation as bringing in something from without, something external to me. And others will see those words in different ways, perhaps in the reverse, but that's the difference I see. I guess I rarely do an evocation. I do a lot of invocations.
Right.
But periodically, if I'm calling on someone, like one of the Egyptian goddesses I work with is called Selket. She has a scorpion on her head. You'd know her if you saw statues of her. She
Right.
protected the pharaoh. She was one of 4 gods or goddesses that protected the pharaoh. So she's a mistress
Right.
of magic.
No, that's right. That's right. And I mean, for anybody who does a lot of goddess magic, that they would recognize her, pretty instrumental. I wanted to put this comment up because the bell ringing alters a frequency within your environment. I think because we do resonate at certain frequencies ourselves, and
Mhm.
how many of you guys out there hear just randomly out of nowhere, you just start hearing, I hear
Mhm.
different frequencies all the time. Sometimes it's really annoying, it's really loud, other times not so much. Sometimes it's more subtle. So I'm wondering, in changing that frequency, like Amelia says, even with singing bowls, changing that frequency, if that's what changes something within us as well, since we're so like, I'm really tuned into different frequencies on a
Mhm.
regular basis, to the point where it's actually annoying at times. So I
I
like the
think
singing bowls. They make me feel content.
that would work perfectly, and I agree with what you said about frequencies. They tend to alter the operator, or the operator first, the person doing the magic,
Right.
and they may also help sort of thin the veil between worlds.
Ah, kids at home, don't just try this. See
and,
little
and,
kids
and
everywhere.
actually,
Just,
the three comes up all the time in magic, and
mm-hmm.
variants of 3. But the 3 is, say you're the operator, so you're one corner of the pyramid, and
Mm-hmm.
then you send your magic into the causal world. That's
Right.
where it's done, and then the impact comes down elsewhere.
Right.
So in a sense, you're putting your thoughts out in the universe, and then they're coming back to land, to work, to
Mm-hmm.
manifest.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, just putting up comments. So feel free. Feel free to comment on anything that you see if you want to add to it.
Oh, thank you.
Um, okay, put that back up. It keeps moving. Tamara says having a grandfather clock in the house is good for the environment, for keeping good energy in the home. I like listening to the grandfather clock. Also, like,
Mhm.
we have a different big antique hanging wall one, and it is really nice. Also, Michael 369.
Mhm.
Interesting numbers too. So, welcome, Dolly. Off one podcast, listening to ours. Dolly will be on in a few weeks. So, tick tick is soothing. Yes, it's Amelia. Amelia's hosting from the chat room tonight. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Hi,
yeah,
Amelia.
she's just getting over about her COVID. So, so she's in chat,
Oh
just
gosh.
stirring things up. But
Mhm.
yeah, so feel free to comment on anything you see in
Okay.
there.
Thank you.
Yes.
So
So,
we've broken the atmosphere,
right.
and chances are you're going to state the purpose of what it is you're doing.
Hmm.
And so I prefer my own words, and I would advise that to anyone.
Hmm.
Yes, you can grab any grimoire or magical book you have access to and read from it, or use
Hmm.
those words. But your
Right.
own words are the most powerful things, the most powerful instruments in terms of stating the workings, purpose, and
Hmm.
making it work.
Right.
We would state the purpose. For instance, my partner Anna did a healing example, which I can read to you shortly if you want. So the purpose is, for instance, I need to boost my energy. Um, I don't feel very well right now. I have another health issue. So
Hmm.
I'm going to do a healing
Right.
magic.
Right. Right.
And then you proceed to do things that you feel are congruent
Hmm.
with that, whether it's imagination or visualization.
Hmm.
And imagination, we could stop there for a few minutes
Yeah.
because it's of
Yeah.
key importance.
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's just touch on that for sure. Because again, I think it falls under mindset. You have to be able to envision what you're doing.
You do have to be able to see it.
Right.
So there was in my view, a great man, Robert Monroe,
Right.
who founded HemiSync, and one of his students or proteges names was Bruce Moen. So
Mhm.
Bruce Moen used to give workshops on all sorts of stuff, including on connecting with the deceased, connecting with people in the afterlife,
Right.
talking to people or helping them,
Right.
helping to send them along, for instance. And so Bruce used to say that imagination was a tool.
Hmm.
He'd say it can bridge the gap between what you're only imagining at first to an actual thing that happens.
Right.
So what he would say, and I'm sure we could apply this to magic, he would say, imagine that you're in touch with someone in the afterlife and they're an earthbound spirit,
Hmm.
and they really need our help to move along. So then imagine you're having a conversation with them. Imagine what they might look like. Imagine what they might sound like. Imagine what their
Yeah.
scenario is, right?
Yes. Yes.
And for
Yes.
a while, you're making stuff up, and then you're not.
Yeah.
Then it changes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No. Yeah. I agree. Intention. Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Now, this is something this is like, these are ancient practices,
Hmm.
right? This isn't just something that all of a sudden is a thing, even though I find we go through cycles where it becomes an interest and it's not, you know, an interest, but it is a pretty ancient thing. Look at that, Tamara, or Trish, just reading my mind again. Get out of there. So, pagan beliefs, bells offer protection as well as a signal. The signal the entrance. That's why people put them on doors. Essentially, the door or veil in magic. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
I absolutely am on board with that. But I mean, I think this is where people go back to oracles,
Hmm.
seers, shaman,
Hmm. Hmm.
healers, things like that. So, why is it? Do you think it's such a taboo in modern time, like everything else that the ancients did? Organized, society and religion is like, no, don't do stuff like that. Then you find out they're all doing it. Just saying.
Well, I'm going to sound like a heretic, right? But
You and me both. Did you hear what I just said? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Please
so
take the heat off me.
to sound like more of a heretic than I normally do. But we can compare stories if you like sometime. But what I would
Mhm.
say is there are those who don't want us to have any personal power at all.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the simplest way I can put it. So
Hmm.
some of those folks are in politics and some are in religion.
Hmm.
And to think that we could actually do what others might call a miracle,
Hmm.
that we could do something that's only attributed, for instance, to God or some other entity,
Hmm.
that's an outrage. And so just keep advocating that I'm going to keep asking another entity, whether it's God or something else. I'm going to keep asking that entity to help me. It may never do it. I can take positive steps myself to doing it. So there are some folks that really don't think that you should mess with that. That it's really not part of our purview, part of our right to do such a thing. And I disagree.
Right. Right. Yeah, I can see that. I think, again, it's just your upbringing.
Hmm.
Everything is so organized. You just don't do it. You don't have the right to do it.
And that doesn't mean I'm mocking these folks. I mean,
Yeah.
without going into too much personal detail,
Of course.
I had to go to one of my sister's funerals yesterday,
Oh,
and
I'm sorry.
thank you, thank you. And we had a pastor from the Anglican Church. So in terms of churches and I don't know seriousness, Anglicans are fairly light and interested in mystery.
Hmm.
And so I thought her service was excellent.
Yeah.
And I told her so. And she said that, it's an open debate in the Anglican Church about what really happens in the afterlife.
Hmm.
Thank you, Amelia. And she didn't know, and she wouldn't say. And I thought, well, that's level-headed.
Right.
I think that's really reasonable. We didn't
Right.
get into a conversation about magic, obviously, not the place or time. Uh,
Hmm.
but but I was thinking, I keep having a respect for people that are real passionate about what they believe in. Even
Hmm.
if I don't believe in it, that doesn't matter. They do, and they're doing their magic.
Hmm. It's true. I think when you have organizations, and this one here is a good point that Tamara is making. Even the Dalai Lama and other religious organizations have an oracle.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's only certain, really, I'm just going to say more controlling ones, maybe the Catholics, who just don't like you dabbling in things like this, but they don't like you dabbling in a whole lot for that matter. But it's
Hmm.
true. Oracles used to be used by anyone of power back in the day. Jennifer, there you go. Sorry for your
Thank you,
loss.
Jennifer.
Um, yeah. So okay. So let's just kind of go back and forth a little bit. Let's
Sure.
talk about magical words through ages and eons.
Yeah, cool. I've got a bit of a history lined up here. It could bring the show down with boredom or not.
No, no,
So,
no, no. We're here amongst friends here. So just go. There's a lot of people interested in this stuff. So
but
like I say, we don't do a whole lot of shows on magic. So this is, no pressure or anything.
well, I'm not a history buff, but I will go through some stuff. So, from ancient Mesopotamia to ancient Egypt,
Yes.
magic's been done at least for 4.5, 5,000 years that we're aware of. So it predates Christianity by some time. In fact, you
Yes.
can reach back into belief systems that go back 10, 12,000 years.
Hmm.
But if we look more at modern times, so we can say start with ancient Egypt, and they had all
Right.
sorts of magical practices. This was the
Right.
norm, right? Including
Yes.
around burial, and that's one of the ones we know the most. And
Right.
then if we go through centuries, I'll just mention a few, and I've got to tell you some of the quotes here. They're so funny and so true. Agrippa, who was a famous magician in the 1500s, said, and he didn't punctuate his sentences, so they're like a mile long.
Oh,
But
so like
anyway,
run-on sentences. I get accused of that all the time.
like this,
Sorry.
I got to put my own punctuation in here.
Yeah.
So Agrippa, 1500, said, magic is a faculty of wonderful virtue, full of most high mysteries, containing the most profound contemplation of secret things, together with nature, power, quality, substance, and virtues, the knowledge of whole nature, he said. It instructs us concerning the differing and the agreement among things themselves, and it can
Mm.
produce wonderful effects. So this is 1500s, right?
Wow. Wow.
So Agrippa says magic was the result of the correspondence, meaning the connection between different things.
Right. Right.
Okay, so I
Yeah.
it's like wow. Then there was Francis Barrett, right around 1800. He said natural magic is a comprehensive knowledge of
Mm.
all nature by which we search out her secret and occult operations throughout her vast and spacious laboratory.
Right. It almost sounds a bit like the law of one.
Yeah, this should be ringing bells, right? Like
Yeah.
yourself,
Yeah.
you're like really focused in, and I hope your viewers are too.
Oh yeah. I'm sure. I'm sure they are. I'm sure they
So,
are.
last 100 years or so, and I can quickly go through some of this. Aleister
Hmm.
Crowley, who was called the
I was,
evilest man on earth.
and I was going to ask you about your opinion on Aleister Crowley. Thank you. Same
Well,
brain.
did you know that Crowley didn't feel that he was evil? That was a moniker the press gave him.
Right. I believe that. I
They
do
dubbed him.
100% believe that. Yeah.
Hmm. They said you're the most evil man on earth, and it's like, oh man, how are you going to shake that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's true. He's stuck with that now, man. I know.
everywhere he goes, oh, evilest man,
Yeah,
so
it's true. Right into the afterlife.
so
Right.
and this gets into a whole interesting thing for me. There are things called aeonic words or
Right.
certain eras. So in 1904, Crowley uttered, and that's how they referred to it. You speak to the universe once.
Yeah.
He uttered his magical word, which was called Thelema, or just will,
Mm.
just simply will with a capital W. And so what he said was, magic is the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with the will.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
to me, this is baseline stuff.
Right. It is. But I think he was way ahead of his time that way. By then, we were already in a very different world.
Oh gosh, yeah, and we were coming out of a very different world, and
Yeah.
so he shocked the world with this in 1904.
Yeah.
So yeah, 1904.
I didn't want to know you're getting a bad rap. I
and,
know.
and I'm here to champion that today.
I know,
So
no, it's true, but it's true. Anybody who's versed in Crowley knows this, but those who really don't have any idea. And he also had, communication with what appeared to be a gray. So when you're talking about dealing, with different entities, I mean, that's pretty much what he was doing. Mind you, where, his place in Inverness or in the Isle of Skye in Scotland,
mhm.
near Loch Ness. I mean, there's all kind of crazy ass stuff over there. So I'm sure he was just all kinds of stuff coming his way.
He was quite a character for anybody that's aware, and you sound like you are very aware. He was a mountaineer.
Yeah.
He was an adventurer. He would go into the desert for 2 weeks
Yeah.
to receive messages, cleanse himself, press the reset button.
Right.
Um, he was fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did say Thelema was his religion. He might say something else. He called it magic with a K on the end of it, but he
Right.
wouldn't be the only one. Yeah, he was a showman. So was
Yeah.
Houdini. Different kind of magic.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. Yeah.
but very, very true. Very true.
Right.
So I'm gonna, fast forward to the
Yeah.
1960s.
Okay.
These are key events, I think, in our world of magic and the world we live in. Anton LaVey created the Church of Satan.
Yes. That's right. And Anton Levating. Oh boy, could that be a show by itself. So
Well,
please go ahead.
I know folks is going to say he's not saying this. Is he? Yeah, the Satanic Bible is a fascinating book, and he wrote that book, and it's got lots of valuable bedrock
I've
magic.
got a first edition.
I'm going to
It's,
rest my case. God, we
it's
have to talk.
interesting. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, we got to talk.
No,
So,
it's true.
so
Part
he
3. Yes.
part three. We'll do a show on Crowley, and we'll work in
I
Houdini
think so.
somehow.
Crowley and Anton.
Yeah, Crowley, Anton, and some other folks. So
Yes.
LaVey shocked the world. He was a circus performer, a circus guy. So he shocked the world. He
Right.
said, basically, drawing on Crowley and a lot of other sources, magic was a change in situations or events in accordance with one's will. But then he added something which is real key to me, which would, using normally accepted methods, be unchangeable.
Hmm. Right.
So this is a clear definition of magic. This is what we do with our minds.
Right.
We
Right.
affect others in time and space. If I want to add that quantum bit in,
Mm.
so his word would have been called indulgence.
That's the big buzzword for I think that whole movement was the self-indulgence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to treat yourself as you're the God within yourself.
And you can take advantage of it. He also did a book, which I don't know if you're familiar with, Michelle, The Complete Witch. or
I am.
confidentiality, which, yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's real dated, but my
Right.
partner just read it, and it's got valuable tips galore. He really
Hmm.
knew humans.
Right.
This
Right.
person really had a bead on humans.
Hmm.
So LeVay didn't, in some ways, would not have been considered successful. He didn't finish his teaching, let's say. Um, and somebody that was part of the Church of Satan formed an organization called the Temple of Set.
Right.
And he did that in around 1975. And the Temple of Set talks about a refinement of black magic, because LeVay would have called his stuff black magic.
Right.
So Michael Aquino formed something called the Temple of Set and spoke about
Yes.
Setian magic.
Yes.
Very
Yes.
different.
Right.
Very different. You need to work with a subjective universe,
Hmm.
your own, and the objective universe.
Hmm.
And then he further developed or talked about two basic forms of black magic. One was called lesser black magic,
Hmm.
which we do every day. And I promise you, Michelle and your viewers, we do it every day.
Right.
If you want to influence somebody, you're doing it.
Right.
Nuance, the way you dress, the way you act, the way you talk, all
Right.
of it is
Yes.
magic.
Yes.
It is, if you want to look at it crassly, it's manipulation.
Hmm.
If you don't, it's influence.
Right.
And so taking indulgence, indulgence doesn't always mean sex. It could mean sex. It means indulgence in everything we do.
Hmm.
So for me, taking a lesson from indulgence, for instance, over the last few years, I've had both eyes operated on, not laser, traditional.
Hmm.
And so I thought, well, I'm going to have a heart attack before I even get there. I have a thing about hospitals and a thing about needles.
Right. Same. Same.
And I'm thinking, I'm not going to make it. Forget the eyes. I won't make it.
Right.
The person
Right.
won't make it.
Yeah.
But so what I decided to do was, using a bit of magic, decide to indulge in it. Not embrace it. Sorry. Let me
Hmm.
redefine that. Embrace
Right.
it for what it was.
Right.
Fully experience it, not reject it.
Okay.
Made a heck of a
Okay.
difference.
Okay.
Made a heck of a difference when I decided to indulge in it. Because we can indulge in experiences that are negative,
Hmm.
even though the results were positive. To me,
Would that be balance?
it is balance. I think it is balance. I mean, I never thought that somebody'd be poking around in my eye while I was awake. Not something I
Nope.
really wanted.
Yeah, I would not be down for that either. So it's a big nope.
I was down for that twice. But once I got through it once, the second time was like, oh yeah,
Yeah, I'm good for going. Yes. Oh
let's
my
have this other
gosh.
eye poke. So that was indulgence that I used,
Mhm.
and also Michael Aquino's word was kefir, is
Mhm.
kefir.
Right. Right.
Many would argue, myself included, it's the current active word.
Right.
We look at eras and aeons. So kefir is beautifully simple. It means to self-become.
Right.
It means to become.
Right.
To become
Right.
something you are not now. To evolve. To become a higher being, higher than you are now.
Hmm.
And you do it on your own.
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
Temple of Set. That's
Right.
greater black magic. Okay, so
Right.
greater black magic is full ceremonies, rituals, grandiose things if you want them to be.
Right.
Lesser black magic is what we do in everyday life. And again, I'm going to say it's not a bad thing. It's not a
Hmm.
bad thing if you wink or smile at somebody, or if you frown at them. It's not a terrible thing.
I'm going to address Dolly's question before I come
Sure.
up with my own question. So, do you see psychic ability as part of your magic practice?
I think it enhances my practice.
Right.
When I was a young thing, I discovered through the spiritualist church that I had
Yeah.
some latent psychic abilities. So the whole spiritualist church, we could go into that. It'd be
Oh,
fantastic.
I know of it.
I love
Yes.
talking about that.
Yeah.
So I discovered that I had some talent because I was put on the spot.
Yeah.
I was put on the spot. I was handed an object and asked basically to tell a little assembled group in a coffee shop who it belonged to and attributes of that person.
Wow.
And the first thing I said was, how? Like I literally said, I don't know how to do that, but apparently I knew how to do it.
Right. Right.
And that's the psychic piece. So I just started talking about how I pictured the woman who owned this watch. It wasn't the woman who handed it to me.
Right.
So it was a third party. So
Yeah.
I just started to talk about some of the attributes, including some injuries she had, and I was dead on.
Wow.
And
Surprise.
I know, but I'm so happy it happened early.
Yeah.
Not that we
Yeah.
can't work with it today. If you just woke up to the fact that you're psychic, well, we're all psychic.
Hmm.
It's just what can we do with it?
Right.
You
Right.
know,
And some
how do you,
don't.
yeah, how do you manage
Some
it? How do you
don't
promote it?
dare to tread there at all. Um, so let's get back to rituals.
Sure.
And I'm going to ask you the obvious question because people, I mean, this is where I think even the Satanic Church took a big hit.
Hmm.
With all the propaganda and such. Ritualistic sacrifice.
Never.
Yeah.
One word
See,
answer.
yeah, there you go.
Absolutely never in any of the organizations or people I've been involved with. Never.
Yeah, there you go. I have a friend who was a high priest
Hmm.
for the church, and that's. I just wanted to make sure that we got that question out there because obviously this is something that is going to get a bad rap because it is what it is. It's the complete when you say to somebody, it's pretty much based on the same principle, but it's just the flip side of it.
Hmm.
People are just like, well, we don't kill people at our church ceremony, so they must. Like it's. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true. It's very stereotypical. It's the movies, it's media, it's press, it's religious organizations. But I have to say, and you can let me know if there's any truth to this. Also, I saw a film in Anton LaVey's, probably the last part of his life,
Hmm.
where he reneged on a lot of that. And he really feared what was coming.
Mm.
I guess thinking about the whole indulgence or self-indulgence. And and the video that I saw, and also, being a medium, I could read into it and I could look at him and go, wow, what scared you to
Hmm.
be so confident all the way through with your craft? What in the end, what freaked you out or what scared you? Did he have a vision? Did he have like what happened in there to make him go the other way?
So it would be sheer speculation on my part,
Right.
and that speculation would be I feel he lost his focus and lost his way.
Right.
And what happens for a person like him who
Yeah.
brings something new to the world is people will absolutely skewer it, bend it, break it, turn it into their own needs,
Hmm.
falsify it, idolize it.
Right.
And so they're going to take Satanism and or black magic and say, let's go the serial killer route because you see so many documentaries on serial killers say, oh yes, the devil, and
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff. It's like absolutely not. Not if you're sensible, not if you're balanced, not if you have respect for all other life, and particularly animal life. If I can speak to that a little bit, and I'm no
Yeah, of
expert on
course. Of
this,
course. Please.
but I'm real passionate about it. I love all animals, even
Mm.
bugs.
Right.
So um, the theory was, from what I gather, that sacrificing an animal and having them bleed all over you or your altar area, you could make use of that life force
Right.
because they're spilling out their life force. Well,
Well, it's
yes,
powerful. When the spirit leaves the physical, it's a very powerful energy.
absolutely powerful. What I would hopefully turn that into, what I do is, if you're talking about a life force, you're talking about essence, not blood.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about spirit. Let's not mix the two up.
Mm-hmm.
So, in some of the magic I do, I can give essence or receive essence. I don't give blood or receive
Mm-hmm.
blood.
You do
That
energy work, essentially.
it is. Thank you. It's
Yes.
energy work. I work with
Yes.
energy and essence, and
Right.
so the killing an innocent being or an
Mm-hmm.
innocent animal is a horrific thing for
Mm-hmm.
me. It really creeps me
I
out and
agree.
enrages me.
Right. I agree. I agree. And there's a lot of religious practices that will do that, you know. And I guess it is just your, you know, if you're born in a certain religion, then that's what you do. I mean, voodoo
Hmm.
is one of those things, you know. Not that it's acceptable, but it's very, I guess people are just maybe more aware of it, you know, like they,
Yeah, it's pretty sexy, right?
well, I think people are, you see in television, it's more talked about, I
Yeah.
guess, is what I should say with respect to awareness, is it's more talked about. People don't want to talk about, you know, for some reason it's a religious thing. It's not so much like they didn't, I don't think the church and state was never taken seriously. It was taken as completely heretic, as
Hmm.
completely bull-faced going after, you know, the Christians,
Hmm.
the Catholics. I don't think people ever really had an understanding of it. And yes, animals are equal conscious entities.
Thank you,
Thank you, Dolly.
Dolly.
They are. They are. So, you know, I think that's part of the whole thing of it is that it's been. I mean, how many different, like magic itself is pretty much bastardized within society, and yet it's such an ancient practice.
Well, we were talking, 4.5, 5,000 years ago,
At least, yeah.
and you're talking about different kinds of magic. I have this lengthy list here, which I
Yeah,
could
let's go
certainly
through
talk
it.
about.
Yeah, let's go through it. Absolutely.
But I'd like to mention a husband and wife author team who have shed to me great light, astounding light on Egyptian philosophy and magic. So we're
Yes.
not, everybody's fascinated by Egyptian archaeology. And to me, that's okay, that's interesting. But Egyptian philosophy and magic, that's large in my world.
Right.
The author's name are the Lubitz,
Okay.
Aisha and R.A. Schwaller. I might be saying the name wrong, de Lubitz. So they wrote several books.
Mm.
They had a series of two books that dealt with an Egyptian initiate. They called Herbach or Chickpea.
Okay.
Yeah, a little boy that was initiated into the priesthood in ancient Egypt. And how the Lewises look at life differently is they don't look at ancient Egypt from today's perspective, looking back. They try to take the tact and the position that they were there
Yes. Yeah.
and talk about life as the ancient Egyptians would have seen it.
Hmm.
And so the two-part book series on Herbach, I'd recommend to anyone if you want
Hmm.
to go on a voyage,
Hmm.
if you want to do path work, my goodness.
Right.
Fantastic books and a bunch of others, The Temple and Man,
Hmm.
and a bunch of others. They're highly philosophical, highly magical, with a
Hmm.
real different take on Egyptian magic.
Right.
So that's one place I would start. Um, Alchemy, where we transmute basic metals into gold.
Hmm.
So alchemists were hired by the king's court, and alchemists exist today.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. They are.
I had the opportunity to not hang with one, but I met one years ago, and
Hmm.
he worked with silver and gold, and he did a ring or two for me.
Right.
But the transmutation is about the operator.
Right. Right. And that's really deep, alchemy. People are very
Hmm.
curious about it. We had somebody, a practitioner of alchemy, on the show one time, and I was so excited for it because I really dig it. I really do. And it's just, after a while, though, you're like, okay, what?
Oh, for sure.
Can you repeat that? Just like it's easy to get lost in it because there's so much. Like it, you know, he was a lifetime practitioner.
Hmm.
So it's like the knowledge was just coming. But I mean, if you are just even slightly versed you realize how much you really don't know with it.
That's a healthy thing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it can be. Other times, just walk around in a daze. It's like, what the hell did I just hear? But it's really awesome. I'm going to do a really quick station ID just because I
Sure.
want to continue on uninterrupted for you. So, for those who are just tuning in, you're listening to The Outer Realm with myself, Michelle DeRoche, and Amelia Pisano, who is in chat hosting tonight and stirring stuff up. I'll just leave it at that. And we are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who've been with us as a part of this journey since day one. So thank you, Folgers. We also are sponsored by Dr. Snick, aka Justice Snicker, the sonic surgeon, for providing his music and his voice for our intro and our outro. We are sitting here having an amazing conversation with Wes Roberts on mindful magic, all kinds of magic, and some stuff, that might leave people going, what? Yes. I'd actually like to do a full show with you on people such as Aleister Crowley and Anton LaVey and others like them, because I feel that there's a lot of misconceptions
Hmm.
about that. Labels and misunderstandings, and not really taking the time to really research. And I know that by then Amelia should be in fine form. So we kind of get like double trouble all in one shot. But anyway, I think, that's something we can definitely talk about if you'd be interested. So let's get back to other forms
Sure.
of and go from there. And then we can slip over to other things that you want to
Okay.
talk about.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. Other people might not be, but I
Oh
am.
no, I
I
think we're
can
all
see that.
having a blast. We're all good. Definitely.
So one of the things I'll interject just before I get back to my little list is ego needs to be a driver in a lot of this.
Right.
When you reach a stage of wisdom, and I think I have a tiny bit of it, but not much. But when you reach some kind of wisdom, you realize ego has its place, and you get rid of it, or you do your best to be egoless. So
Right.
that's part of my practice currently. But ego drove people like Crowley to making the most absurd boasts in the world,
Right.
absurd claims. He climbed a mountain up and down 20 times and carried the Sherpas on his back. And,
Right.
you know, so,
Yeah.
so if you're investigating these folks, look at someone else who was involved with them for their opinion.
Hmm.
Just saying.
Right. Right. Don't believe
So,
everything you hear, basically.
gosh,
Most things are hidden in plain sight.
yeah, hidden in plain sight. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then we get to, that's called traditional witchcraft and
Right.
white magic. So here's me as a 17-year-old thinking I want to be a warlock.
Mm.
And there's books on that. There's
Right.
books on that even when I was 17. I know you're thinking, that far back?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Aging myself too, but yes.
Yeah, there were books.
Yes.
So I still have the book that I used to become a warlock. I still have it. Not maybe an original printing, but hardcover. And this person put you through the most absurd things. And at the end of it, after all the lightning and thunder, and after your parents ran up saying, "What the heck are you doing?" So after all that stuff, you're a warlock. And
Right.
so
That label again.
it's a
So,
label. So
yeah.
I was happy to be a warlock. Um,
Right.
then I went on to different things, but so witchcraft and white magic, things like Hermeticism and Gnosticism. So Hermeticism was based on a god formed by the Greek Hermes
Yes.
and the Egyptian Thoth.
Right.
God can be comprehended through philosophical reasoning.
Right.
Gnosticism might say that
I know
God
it
is
well.
unknowable, right?
Yeah. So
Okay, so I
please.
don't want to speak to the things I don't know.
Yeah. No, please go. Yeah.
So just for
Gnosticism's great. Yeah.
yeah, fantastic. Satanism, which I mentioned, Setianism, chaos magic. I don't know a
Mm.
lot about it. The key figure was Austin Osman Spare.
Mhm.
I can't say I know a lot about it, but So what I do know about it is they'll try and strip away the symbolic to make the experience conditioned by their beliefs.
Right.
And one of the interesting things that I learned from my partner, she knows more about Kalas magic than I do, is they capitalize on surprises,
Right.
which I wasn't really aware of. So something shocking or surprising, even if it's self-induced or
Right.
purposefully induced, that's a transition time.
Right.
That is time for magic.
Right. Right.
You mentioned voodoo.
Mm.
So there's hoodoo, voodoo, Santeria, and all sorts of variants. The funny thing about voodoo, Haitian voodoo anyway, and there's a great book, if you can still get it. It's called The Divine Horsemen of Haiti, by someone who went and studied this way back when,
Right.
and talked about the gods, the Loas,
Right.
and how the gods mount people.
Right.
And so people seem possessed. When they are mounted or ridden,
Right.
God is riding them or has mounted them, so they seem possessed.
Right.
So voodoo mixes in all sorts of Christian symbols with black magic. It's just a fascinating thing, and it works well for them. And the interesting thing, Michelle, is I would say talk about being ridden or being mounted. That's what some, in my opinion, aliens do.
Right.
They ride you
Yeah,
and
my
mount you.
mind went somewhere else for a minute. I had to reel it back in. Sorry. My bad there. It's like going,
Ooh,
it could be a ritual.
do talk about that. Okay, I'm going to say yes. There's sex magic. There.
Yes. Blaming it all on the aliens. So no, but I am curious about the aliens for sure.
Wow, we can have a show on sex magic. Yeah.
I know. Amelia's like, oh my God, I know. So it happens you leave me to my own devices. So
Okay, so Wes, do not use the word mounting or riding. These are bad.
bad idea. Sure. Okay, so aliens.
So recovering from that, or never recovering from it.
Right.
There's also actually alien magic,
Right.
which I'm thinking about, and there's vampiric magic,
Right.
which involves manifestation of powers that are typically attributed to vampires.
Right.
And we're not talking about sucking blood.
Okay.
Okay?
Energy.
Energy. I mean, if that floats your boat, knock yourself out.
Right.
Never done it, won't do it.
Right.
We're talking about energy work again.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's pretty popular. Energy vampires is spoken of a lot.
Yeah, energy work. So I meant to share with you. You'll have to steer me around your show here. A little working for healing, if you want to hear it or no.
Absolutely.
So that's assume that you have some kind of pain, lack of energy, or another health issue, and you're using 5 ingredients at least besides intention. You need to heal. Your desire is to heal. The will is the power to overcome the current situation.
Right.
The time is when you call the time. That might not be when you first don't feel well. Like for me, I got fed up with 2 chronic conditions I had for 20 years, and finally called it and said, medicine's not working. Allopathic medicine's not helping. And I designed some self-healing techniques, and they worked overnight.
Wow.
Literally 2 nights, no more than 2 hours. And it was incredible. And so you've got need, desire, will, timing, and idea. So there's simple steps, basically 4 or 5 steps. Just recline in a comfortable position. It's very meditative.
Right.
And close your eyes. A lot of us do this anyways. We meditate, we have visions, we daydream. Pay attention.
Is this a frequency thing again with what you're doing? Are you altering your frequencies while you're doing that? I mean, frequency does heal.
Yes, I actually think you are. Like, not my mind. My body knows how to do it.
Right.
And what I consider is I need to step aside from the process and not be in its way.
Right.
That
Right.
really taught me a lot. I was constantly reinforcing the fact that I had tennis elbow,
Mm.
or that I injured my hip many moons ago in martial arts. Every day I'd reinforce it. My
Right.
elbow hurts. I can't lay
Mm.
on that side. I have to stretch out my arm. Every day and every night I'd reinforce it.
Right.
And so it was destined to be with me forever
Mm-hmm.
until I called it.
Hmm.
And basically told my body, or asked my body to do what it knew how to do very well. And it certainly knew how to have a healthy elbow. It used to have one.
Right. Right.
I know, sounds crazy, but it works.
Right.
So you pay attention to the area of your body, and you imagine there's a stream of clear water falling from a mountain. It's refreshing. Keep looking at the water. You might see rocks or other obstacles, and that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of important. Take the obstacles out of the picture.
Right.
Remove the obstacles. You can grab them with your hands, or you can pretend you're looking at a blank white screen or a black screen and shove them off.
Mm-hmm.
Stay there until you have a feeling that you're being effective. For me, I have a feeling I'm being effective. My whole body is buzzing.
Mm. Right. Yeah.
That's frequency.
I can see that, and just kind of looking at what's going on in the chat. If I find myself coming down and getting sick, whether it be a headache, whether it be coming down with a cold, which I don't get sick often, like amazing to me, barely happens, but when it does, I'll see myself just say, "No, I'm not doing that." And I just get up and I get moving around and I just go about my daily life like it's like there's nothing going on, and it's just like it doesn't happen.
I understand you, and we're similar. I'm not I'm not flawless in this process, but I'm pretty good.
Right,
And I just want to mention that working is not mine. That's one Anna, my partner, came up with. But it's just an example of
right,
doing wishful magic
right,
and trying to fix what's broken, basically.
right.
But what you
See,
said, I mean, I had when I was a kid, Michelle, I had one illness after the other. So I finally, when my mom was alive, she used to say, "You almost died."
wow.
I didn't feel that way, honestly. I did not.
See, yeah,
I didn't
right,
feel good, but I didn't feel like I almost died. So I eventually ended up in the hospital. Doctors were saying I was there for a week. Doctors were saying you won't be able to do anything for 6 months. You're going to be bedridden.
wow.
So I left the hospital. I was probably starting to feel better because they took blood 5 times a day, and I would run away if I could have.
Mm.
I see another comments coming in there, and hopefully we can get back to that. So
Oh, it's no problem. I just put them up. You see them if you want to comment. Otherwise, we
okay.
just keep going. We'll keep going.
Okay,
It's fine.
thank you. So
Yeah.
I left the hospital. I was bedridden for a few days. And I said, I'm not doing this. I am going to get better quickly.
Right.
And it was
Right.
2 weeks, not 5 months.
Right. There you go. There you go.
And
Right.
I had a passionate intent to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of the ingredients of magic, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, absolutely. I believe that the mind is a very, very powerful thing. And we barely just touched the surface of what we can do with it. And I believe the ancients knew how to tap into this a lot better than we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it's like anything else. The ancient people would be very comfortable with their friends from the stars, the gods, or, they didn't fear them. They emulated them. They built temples in honor to them. You see this all over petroglyphs. I mean, everything, carvings and amulets that are being found. And yet here we are, and we just don't. It's like something just happened at one point, and everything seemed to be taboo. When we fear, extraterrestrials, they're not all. They're not all the same. They're very individual, much like we are. Magic, That's just something, like you say, some of it we do every day. It's just
Mhm.
not labeled.
No, and we're okay. Society's okay if you say, "I wish for a better outcome,"
Mm,
not "I will make it so."
right. Right. Exactly. So, we do not even use all of our brain, but meditation opens the possibilities of potential. Yes.
Yeah, I
I
so much agree with that. We just tap a very finite part of it. And things like magic, and also I'd have to throw in, because I'm such an adherent, a believer, I don't do it well. Things like remote viewing. Uh,
right.
it is surprising what we can do. We can go anywhere in space
Mm,
and time. And why not think, well, I'm going to go forward a few
mm,
minutes,
mm.
and that guy will tell this current guy what's up. It's a
Do
little
you
creative.
think do you think though, when it comes into like the whole prime directive thing, that you'd be allowed to do that? Because even with time travel, they say like you can really mess things up just by trying to go forward and come back and tell yourself something. It doesn't always work in your favor. You have that
No,
whole
it doesn't.
butterfly effect thing going on.
The whole prime directive, I do have a belief in that, was no myth, that it is no myth,
Right,
that it's real.
right.
And I'm sure you are too, and many of your viewers are, sometimes painfully aware at the number and variety of entities in our lives,
Oh, yes.
just from the afterlife on into outer space, into other universes.
Yes, yes, I agree. Oh, I agree. Multiverses,
Yep.
there's so much going on simultaneously. I always say to people, try to think of a radio station. You can only listen to one at a time. Doesn't mean that the signals and the frequencies, aren't all overlapped. I mean, I think when I lay my head down at night, or sometimes I'll just be sitting here and I'll be reading or researching, and then all of these different frequencies, and I mean different levels, start kicking in, and I'm just, kind of tapped into like the solitude, and then all of a sudden you start hearing things. I think there are multiple levels, but on an average, we're here and we just see one at a time. There's so many stories of people who step outside the door, they go outside for a moment, come back in, honestly, and they hear something going on, and it's like not what they left behind. Yet they just walked around the other side of the house, came in, and there's something entirely different. It's a whole different time going on.
Hmm.
Then they go back
Hmm.
out and they come back around, and all of a sudden they're back where they started. It's just, what's your take on that? There's a prime directive for you. Don't interact
Well,
with yourself.
I think I may have mentioned on my earlier appearance that my partner and I did a little experiment,
Yeah.
because we believe in the omniverse, and I wanted to
Yes.
tell you and your viewers, Doctor
Yes.
Strange doesn't know that yet. He
Yeah.
only gets the multiverse.
Michelle DeRoche gets it though. I'll tell you that.
I knew you would.
Yeah. Yes.
So the omniverse is pretty inclusive. So
Yeah.
my partner and I did a little experiment where we felt we would try and sense another two of us somewhere in the omniverse, looking out at us as we were looking at them.
Right.
And for a bit, the lines blurred. We were sitting on the balcony. We were quite awake.
Right.
It wasn't serious meditation. And I wondered, and she wondered, what would happen if we had seen it through. And
Mm.
so we intend to actually work out a process and try it.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
And
No, we're not there yet, but I would certainly be
I
happy to
love
share
it.
it with you. A series of
Yes.
steps that we'll take, and we're going to test drive it.
I love it. I love it. No, I would definitely love to hear more about that. It's fascinating. Especially if you can will it. I mean, if you can direct it, get in the driver's seat with it, that is fascinating to be able to manipulate it.
Mhm.
Renee, remember my team stepped into the past at Octagon Hall. It really freaked him out. Never had that happen to him before. Hmm. So portals, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, portals. We can. somebody said to me, "You're time slipping," and it's like, yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that phrase.
Is that kind of like jumping?
I, it might not be so much jumping as it is falling.
Ah,
Is how I think he meant it. But I assume, because I think, we're surrounded by entities and they're at us 24/7 for our attention and focus, and we
right,
can't do that. But
right.
I assume that others want to connect with me, other me's want to connect with me, because there's some stuff I can do in this life that I never learned, practiced, studied, and yet I
Right.
have talent. So does that come from a life before this one, or does it come from one of me out there somewhere? And I tend to think it comes from one of me out there.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, if the theory that we can split our essence, you
Hmm.
know, different simultaneous existences, it would make a lot of sense.
Hmm. Hmm. I think so. So we're going to go to work on this, and it's funny, some people are going to say, you're loopy, and it's like, maybe,
Yes.
but if it works for me, I
Sure.
don't care if it works for you.
Right.
You have.
Sorry, man from South. Get out of my way.
Well,
Right.
critics don't see
Yeah.
ghosts because they don't want to, and they don't
Right.
believe in them. But you
Right.
know that way better than I. So not my
Right.
forte, but.
Hey, I always say that we're all students with
Hmm.
everything. Everything. We don't know anything for certain. Every time we have someone come on the show, we are also learning. It's this is new for like a lot of this is new for me, as versed as I am in a lot of things that you've spoken about. It's interesting because when I listen to your perspective on it and how you do it, it's kind of like, oh, well, that's very interesting. I would not have thought of that. you know, but it's really interesting because I love the like-mindedness of it. It's always nice
Me
when
too.
you connect with somebody who doesn't just get it, but somebody who can really talk it and educate it, which brings us to your workshops. You have workshops that do include, you have a workshop. I believe you have two coming up, and
I do.
one is based on some of this.
Yeah, based on pretty much all the stuff we touched on and more. Um,
Right,
it would be on wishful magic or mindful magic.
right.
And we kind of, thankfully, and I really appreciate going through all this, because these are some of the things I would cover in the workshop.
I
I
love
have a
it.
series of 5 workshops to say, I can get you from 0 to 100. You'll be doing mindful wish magic. You'll have all the ingredients right, and you can prove it for yourself.
Right,
And so it's not me. I'm not gonna, wow people. Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. But
right,
I will say, you pull a rabbit out of your hat.
right,
That's what I'm interested in.
right,
So I really
right.
want to see people just come to terms with how basic it is. Like, after studying, I can't tell you how many books on magic and all the secret formulas and symbols and stuff. I said, there's got to be a way to simplify this.
Yes,
How
yes.
do I get my point across? Am I going to say, well, turn to page 570 of this grimoire, and let's read this stuff together in Latin?
Right.
Not,
Yeah. Latin, Aramaic, so
yeah,
just a little
no.
technicality. Yeah. Right. So no, no. So this is great. So how does one partake in your workshop?
So this one's coming up in the fall, probably around the 1st of October. And
Oh,
yeah,
spooky
I'll be,
month.
oh, the spooky month, the
It
transition month,
is.
you know,
Yeah.
thinning of the veils and all that stuff, right?
Right. Right. I love
Um,
it.
so it's just my website, Wes G. Roberts. There's a workshop tab there now, but it's not fully functional. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, there will be like mindful wish magic in and around the
Wow.
beginning of October. And there's one before that, but that's the wish magic one with more details, more of this stuff that we've been
Right.
talking about.
Right. No, I love it. Okay, Amelia, you know me so well. October, Michelle's Christmas, pretty much. Sorry. Yeah, I'm a lot like that. But there are many other Audis out there who feel the same way. So, okay. So, and you have another workshop coming up for
Uh,
experiencers?
yeah, for experiencers, basically, you don't have to be an experiencer. It's basically for coping with the kind of trauma that comes about from experiences. Now, maybe
Okay.
the trauma will come about from a haunting,
Right.
from a ghostly occurrence,
Right.
from interaction with spirit. But I know, Michelle, I had to go through all sorts of different things that I call my own coping mechanisms.
Right.
And I want to be plain and straightforward with you and your audience. I'm not a counselor. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a psychiatrist, a psychoanalyst. I'm not in anything. I'm an experiencer. But
Mm-hmm.
I had to go from being disbelieving to being real irritated and unbalanced or
Mm-hmm.
imbalanced, to being able to cope, to finally integrating.
Right.
And that was liberation.
Right.
And how I did that was meditation. It was magic. It was counseling. It was with a hypnotherapist. It was with speaking to other experiencers. It was with talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
You got to tell someone first.
Right. Right.
This is
It's
what I
true.
urge people.
Yes. Yes. No, absolutely. Um, so as an experiencer then, um, do you consider yourself an abductee or contactee? Some people will say, no, I believe everyone is contacted. They're all contactees, despite the experience may be different for everyone.
Hmm.
How did you view your experience? Like, are you an abductee, or do you consider yourself to be a contactee and experiencer for the
So
most part?
yeah, there's connotations to all those words,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I know that when I was in denial, when this 1980s experience happened, and I was in denial,
Hmm.
um, I I never connected the dots. I,
Right.
abductee never even came in my mind,
Right.
even though I was speaking to abductees through MUFON and other
Hmm.
ways.
Right.
And quite frankly, I think I've said this before. I felt
Yeah.
rather creeped out,
Yeah.
among some of them, because there's this energy that I was alien in all senses of the word. It was alien energy
Yeah.
exuding from them. So when I eventually came to terms with it, and started to undergo hypnosis, so the hypnosis was for consciously recalled experiences
Hmm.
mainly, and then for others that would come up. And,
Right.
and the others that came up tells me that for a time, and Leslie Mitchell Clark would probably say
Yeah,
this,
yeah, she's
for a
coming back on
time.
next month.
Oh, was she? Yes.
Yeah, we love her.
Yeah, I'll be hanging with Leslie on the weekend.
Very
Um,
nice.
yeah. So she
Yeah.
would say, and I think she's right, that there is a time for some people. They go through an abduction
Mhm.
part of who and what they are.
Right.
And the abductions are physical and psychic both.
Mm,
Most of my
right.
abductions have been psychic, not physical.
Okay. Okay.
Spirit abduction is the
Right.
best way I can put it. And it still registers, you still go through the trauma.
Right.
It's no
Yes.
different. You go through everything that
Mhm.
they do to your spirit. So an
Hmm.
abductee implies it's wholly or almost fully against your will to me. And
Right.
so Leslie and I would have a conversation saying, well, for those that go with the program, that can deal with it, that end up integrating that make it part of their life healthy again, you become an experiencer who's got some say,
Mhm.
some buy-in. And I think that's where I am now. I've got some buy-in. I've been called to councils,
Mhm.
where they said basically, Wes, so you've been through this phase. Are you ready for the next phase?
Right.
And I think I've said this before. I've always said yes. And then in conscious waking world, this one, it's like, what did I say? Yes.
Yeah, what was that thinking, face palm?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So couldn't you, I mean, being, so versed in magic, couldn't you work, or did you work through using your techniques and magic to help you get through and heal from some of this as well?
In part. And that was a big deal to me because my magic, my brand of magic,
Right.
which is uniquely left-hand path magic, and aliens interfering with my life was impossible.
Right.
It
Right.
created a large conflict.
Yeah.
If I have Crowley's Halima or will, it is impossible for anything or anyone else to interfere with that will,
Right.
meaning destiny and fate.
Right.
And I had to reconcile this stuff. And I've been around magic for 4 decades. So reconciling this was real difficult. At first, I actually thought, do I have to give up one of these two things?
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah.
Do I have to give up a lifelong practice of magic
Mm-hmm.
and being in a pretty good position in there?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I have to give up pursuing the experiencer? I reconciled.
Right.
And magic has since played a big part in my understanding. And in one way, I guess, my alien friends are just helping me with my magic.
So that was going to be my next question. So where are you with this? You've been able to bring them both together, get a better understanding of it, and you realize maybe that no, I'm not under attack. I'm being coached. Like I always say downloads,
Yes,
like
yes.
I'll get information and I'll go, okay. Or sometimes you don't realize. Sometimes I'm very aware that I'm being told something, and this is, and if I don't listen, like if I'm not paying attention, I find that if I'm researching for a show or something, all of a sudden what they want keeps coming through, the search engine, and I'm just like, fine. Other times it's very evident, like you just wake up going, oh, blah, 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 and you just
Yes.
know it, right?
I call it downloads too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing, and I've had plenty of them. And the thing is, I rarely can process them in the moment.
Right.
I need to unpack them.
Right.
Quite honestly, I'd love to talk downloads sometime with you more like.
Absolutely. Yes. 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 All of
So
it.
yes,
Love it.
magic has helped.
Yes. Love it all. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought these are not incongruent, and
Right.
in fact, perhaps I have a more refined or new or different set of gifts that I can bring to the magical table or the altar.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Making a download comment, bringing that up. Yeah. I think if you can apply it into your everyday life, no matter what the situation, because I
Hmm.
do find a big part, like you make mention of hauntings and,
Hmm. Hmm.
working with certain spirits, or sometimes they're more malevolent entities. Um, a big part of that comes counseling, and I'm not a counselor. I did dabble in counseling. I did take a small course in it. I just chose not to take it any further because I realized I don't really like it. But I showed due diligence because I worked with a lot of people,
Hmm.
and I wanted to learn more about how to properly communicate to people as to what they were experiencing, because
Hmm.
sometimes people think they're experiencing something and they're really not. They're
Hmm.
projecting energy, perhaps like psychokinesis, that sort of thing. They're
Hmm.
creating things. And I'm like, I really need to learn how to properly communicate to people, look at body language, things like that. So for me, it was a personal thing because I realized at that point you're helping people with these energies that you're either removing or relocating or whatever the case may be, moving on.
Hmm. Hmm.
And along comes with that is the healing process for people. So it sounds to me like you found a way yourself to be able to apply something you love into healing on different levels.
I think that's all true, and an explosion of it happened when I started undergoing hypnosis.
Yeah.
It was like, any latent psychic ability I had, or active psychic ability, or healing ability, just got magnified.
Right.
it
Right.
just it just got ramped up.
Do you think there's a resurgence?
Oh gosh, I guess I'm going to say I hope so,
Right.
because like you said much earlier in the show, we lose touch with fantastic abilities we once had, as
Hmm.
if we've been cut off from them.
Yeah.
And I argue that point. You can rediscover them.
Right. That's the thing is, I think is are we I mean, let's face it, everything they put in the food, premature, kids going through premature puberty, all kinds of stuff. Like there's the hormones, the poisons, whatever, I think that we're shut off from it. Our belief systems teach us to withdraw from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like riding a bike. Once you do it, yes, you can get back on a bike and do it. But I think it's the cause of what makes us disconnect from it in the first place. Yeah, the damn packaging, right? Amelia. So, I think it's important to be taught, for those who just can't reconnect, to be taught how to reconnect. And in many cases, I think for some people, like, the floodgates just open up. You teach them how to ground and how to meditate, and all of a sudden it's like, wow,
Yeah.
like, oh my God. And I always tell people, you better be ready for what you're asking for. Because if you have any fears, like you talk about even yourself, working with different entities, if you have any fear at all, that is not a good idea. Because they'll rule you. Right?
Yeah, I like to say that we need to have a level playing field.
Yeah.
And my deference goes to entities all the time.
Right.
I defer to them.
Right.
I don't think I'm lesser, but I may not be as advanced.
Right. And
So, yeah.
have you ever dealt with an entity that concerned you, that you couldn't deal with, that may have just kind of snuck in the back door sort of thing? Because the sneaky ones are the ones that are up to no good all the time, right? So
I've had a couple of incidents where I thought I've seen things,
right.
but what I would like to say is, let's not sell ourselves short. We probably did see things. We
Right.
tend to sell ourselves short. That couldn't happen. That was the fact that a cup was really light, and it traveled across the room and then materialized or reported into another room, and so that's physically possible. So
Right.
yeah, we sell ourselves so short. But yeah, I've had a couple of instances where I've encountered what I call a wall of black.
Mm.
And I'm used to black, but not that kind of black. And so
That's a blacker and black saying.
black on
Yeah.
shades of black. But yeah, just
Yeah.
black. Just picture a wall of black moving towards you and
Yeah.
past you.
Right.
And I don't do the work you do, but I've been in a couple of haunted houses and was a little on edge because I thought I was sensing something. But generally, I'm not. I'm going to approach an entity with deference and respect. I don't call up on demons.
Right.
Come and do my bidding. That guy bumped
That's a
me in the
big one for some
subway.
people.
That guy
Yeah.
bumped me on the subway.
Right.
Take him out.
Right. Exactly.
I don't think
Exactly.
so.
It can be done. It can be done. But I think that's the stereotype that I was talking about. People assume that when you work in dark magic, that you're sitting there in a dark room in the middle of a pentagram and you're conjuring, the demonic realms, and all of a sudden you feel like empowered, like you're in complete control. It's not really that. I won't say there's not out there who do it and are probably really darn good at it.
Yeah.
Right? I just don't want 500,000 people listening to my show to go and try it. That's all. So.
Well, you mentioned due diligence. You absolutely have to do your homework and ask yourself if this is suitable for you.
Mm-hmm.
You really do. If you're perhaps not in a good state of mind, or perhaps upset, or perhaps a lot of imbalance, do not.
Right.
Don't do it.
Right. No, exactly. And it's not like what you see on television. So don't assume that it is. You can't go in there and start calling out on all these powerful energies thinking that this is how it's done. This is what it really is, because it's not. You're just going out and invoking invitations and getting your self-attachments and wondering why everything in your life is going down the toilet. It's just, because that's what they do. But I do believe in mindset. I've seen people do phenomenal things, having, even with dark energies,
Hmm.
One time I used to have a waiting list for people in person to see me, like 18 months. So I would work with people online or, over the phone and just say, okay, this is what I'd like you to try. It was all about empowerment, frequency, vibrations, and changing the way they thought about what was going on. So it was giving them back the control. And people do amazing things if they're just taught what to do.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
the workshops, I think, will be a great thing, because I know you're going to say to people, okay, kids, don't try this at home unless you go through the proper steps.
I just want to say with magic, I know we're getting close to the end of the show, that,
Yeah,
you want to work on something, work on you.
right, right.
Hmm. Help
Makes
yourself.
makes sense.
Hmm.
you know, Lotto, I might have to wait a while, but So tell us about your book. Tell us how people can find you, find the books, promote,
Sure.
promote, promote.
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
So my website's probably the best place to go, wesgroberts.com.
Mhm.
I have a couple of books out on Amazon. Intersections is the short title of the first one, co-written by Leslie Mitchell Clark, my hypnotherapist, because she would comment in Intersections on what I'd gone through. So I thought
Right.
it was fascinating. She put her analytical hat on.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and the other's an experiencer's garden, because I think we're living in this fantastic garden,
Yes.
with a world full of experiences out there. And we only have, a contrite amount of time, and I don't know how much time that is. So I am just like all over the place exploring.
Right.
So Amazon is the place for my books. Thank you.
Right. Well, thank you for coming back on the show. It's always such a delight to have you on. You're just so much fun. And I found this to be really knowledgeable. And I definitely would like to connect, and we'd love to have you on again.
Oh,
So
thanks.
let's just jam a little bit about,
Okay.
dates and topics. And because, I mean, we might be able to, get you on for a couple more rounds,
Oh,
from
cool.
the sounds of it. Yeah, we think so too. So, so thank you for coming on again. And I will be in touch with you.
Michelle, Amelia, and all others, and of course to all your viewers, thank you very much, for hearing all the weird stuff I had to say.
Love it. It's all about weird outer realm. Thank you. I'll be in touch.
Thank you, Michelle.
Good night, Wes.
Good night, everyone.
Well, guys, that was another fantastic segment. He's just so much fun. He is just so versed on his topic matter. So thank you for everybody who tuned in. Thank you to the chat room, everybody in here. A lot of new faces. Really nice to see you guys here. Also, big thank you to Wes. Big thank you to Folgers Coffee, who do sponsor the show. We love you. You have no idea how much. Big thank you to Dr. Snick, for, again, your contribution of your voice and your music. We appreciate you so much. Head over to all of our YouTube channels. We've got International Public Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio. We have UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. Check Amelia and I out at, of course, our YouTube account. My YouTube account is Michelle DeRoche at the Outer Realm Radio. Like us on Facebook as well. And if you enjoy the content on these channels, please subscribe. We appreciate you, and we really appreciate your support. If you want to communicate with us, perhaps you want to be on the show, perhaps you know someone you'd like to see on the show, or you have topic matter that you'd like to see, please drop us a line at the outer realm contact at gmail.com. Again, the outer realm contact at gmail.com. Now, tomorrow night is going to be a heck of a lot of fun. We welcome the return of David Weiss, and he's our flat earth guy. We had so much fun with David Weiss the last time. We're definitely going to have a blast again. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you again tomorrow evening. Good night.